Hello again, everyone. It's your favorite scruffy-looking scoundrel, the crazy Carillion Solo Straight. And I'm back today to do a special edition of Never Tell Me the Odds. What I want to do is, Conquest is just wrapped up. So I wanted to take the time to do a little video, a fun little video, so to say. So do me a favor, of course. As always, please like, subscribe, or comment. Make sure you join so moving forward you can get all this content. So what I wanted to do is talk about today the top 10 characters that should be in this game that aren't for whatever reason. So like I said, if you're like me, you're wondering where is the game going right now, okay? So we're starting to get a lot of new things. Recently we've got the Inquisitors have been added to the game, and of course that's leading to the Grand Inquisitor. In addition to that, we just got the Old Republic robot 50R-T or Sortie. Now, interesting about Sortie is I do want to say I believe we're going to be getting more Old Republic characters. And I say that basically just based on her event in game. If you notice, it's following a certain metric they started with the Starkiller event, where the requirement for the actual character that builds up to Starkiller, and even the Inquisitors with the Grand Inquisitor, they have that new legacy tier, and which of course you can compete in if you have a Relic 5 version of the marquee character upon its release, in order to get, you know, the new Omnicron. The reason I want to bring that up is if you notice she has one as well, and of course she's a requirement for it. So if you look at the past cadences, probably means that there'll be another Old Republic tune coming out soon that you'll have to have her at Relic 5 plus that new one, etc., etc. So what I wanted to do is talk about, we're getting all this new content, right? We're getting the Inquisitors, we're getting Old Republic tunes, but why don't we have some of the staples of the lore of Star Wars in the game already? Like, why are we not getting characters that have been overlooked since the inception of this game? So I wanted to try and basically give you a top 10 list. Now I'm going to go ahead and start that by saying this list is not going to have Black Chrysanthemum. This list is not going to have Cobb Bant, Morgan Elsbeth, Migs Mayfield, Mithril. It's not going to have Drash from the Boba Show or her friend Scad. And it's not going to contain Rook. And the reason is because those shows are still in development. I feel like some of those characters will be coming, right? So those were Boba related or Mandalorian related. And in the case of Rook and Pelion, they might potentially be related to Thrawn, and with the Ahsoka show coming out, right? So I don't want to put those characters on the list because I feel like there are projects that could still bring them in and we will still potentially see them. So they're purposely left off. They're not in the top 10. So don't start leaving me a bunch of comments about, I think Black Chrysanthemum should be in the game. I agree, but I feel like his chance is going to be coming up because of future projects. So without further ado, let's jump right into the list. So at number 10, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. 10 is actually, I had a tie, and there's a reason I had a tie, and I'll cover that. So 10B, if you will, is going to be Tobias Beckett, okay? And the reason I feel like Tobias Beckett should be in the game and has been left out is because he's from the Solo movie, wasn't as popular, but he's very, very important for development for Han Solo, right? So without this guy, you don't have the coolest, most iconic, cockiest, scruffiest scoundrel ever, right? So why isn't he there? Now, I'm going to put him in the B category because that Valacord lover is not in the game over another character we should have in his place from the same movie, and that's going to be Dryden Voss. Now, hear me out on that. Dryden Voss, number 10. He should be in the game because he is the villain. He is the baddie of the movie Solo. And if you look at the characters that came in when the Solo movie came out, right, we don't have a villain from that era. So, if you put in Dryden Voss, not only do you get an ultimate bad character that can maybe even bring in some underground syndicate moving forward, but you also have an opportunity, and we all know this game needs ships. We're going down that avenue where ships are starting to come in. We can't get enough ships, but you could actually bring in his ship, the First Light, as well. So it's kind of a bonus. So number 10, Dryden Voss with his ship, First Light. Now, number 9, totally unrelated. Don't focus on the name. I'm going to say it's Quinn Voss. Quinn Voss was a Jedi Master. He's in the Clone Wars era, Galactic Republic era. He goes to hunt down Zero the Hut with General Kenobi. It's a very, very interesting episode. He's later even known as the Admiral Enigma when he joins the dark side. So he has a very big range of lore. He's been his Padawan, Aayla Secura. He's been linked to Saz Ventress. They actually become a couple later. And they go on to take down Count Dooku. So there's a lot of synergy options in game. There's a lot of lore you could feed off of there. Again, it's a Jedi Master who is actually known to have survived Order 66, right? So where is he? What's he been doing? So it'd be very interesting to get this character in the game. Little hidden gem as well. He's actually in Phantom Menace in the background. So as you can see, it's one of those iconic. George Lucas just liked the character, wanted to do something with him, so he's in the background, and he later becomes a character in the lore. So, Quinn Voss, number 9. Number 8, Talon Card, all right? Now, if you're like me, Talon Card, one of your favorite smugglers of all time. If Thrawn is the master tactician of the Empire as a whole, Talon Card would be the tactician for everything else. I can't call Leia on a comm link and Talon Card not find out about it, okay? The man has knowledge beyond his years. He has just ears everywhere, eyes everywhere. He's actually responsible for finding the Katana fleet, which later is going to fall into the hands of the Empire under Thrawn's leadership. So this guy, just cornerstone of the lore, right? Talon Card, again, you bring him in. You can bring his ship in, the Wild Card. We got Mara Jade in the game recently. Mara Jade is his second in command. Talon actually saves Luke's life, which is what starts that whole cycle and storyline for Mara becoming important to Luke and everything else when you read the books. So Talon Card, number 8, needs to be in the game, and he's not. Number 7, very obvious choice. We got Supreme Leader Snoke. How is it we have an entire First Order faction in the game from the films, and the guy that was master puppeteer of Kylo, Stradcast of Emperor Palpatine, is Snoke, right? So to this point, we don't have Snoke in the game. Missed opportunity on CG's part. I feel like they definitely need to do something to bring him back in, put him in the game, okay? Number 6, I already know, I see the comments, I'm looking in the future, and Misa don't think you're going to agree, but Jar Jar Binks, okay? Now let's talk about Jar Jar. I know he's a Gungan, I know he's a bumbling, he's basically 3PO before there was a 3PO. I get it, and I don't like dealing with 3PO myself, right? But Jar Jar, if it's not for Jar Jar destroying the control ship for the droids, right, with the Boomba, right? And if you don't have Jar Jar grant the emergency powers to Supreme Chancellor Sev Palpatine to become the grand scheming emperor, right, you don't have a story. You just don't have a story. Now, I will say this. I don't think we get a standalone Jar Jar. If they ever release him in the game, they're going to have to release the Gungan faction. So that's going to bring Boss Rigor Nass. That's going to bring Captain Ruse Tarpals and Uma Pumbaa, right? So obviously, if he comes in the game, we'll get Gungans as a faction. I think that's the only reason we haven't had him to this point, is they don't want to bring him in as a standalone, right? When you bring in like a species, we've got other Twi'leks, we've got some Wookiees, we've got the Jawas, we've got the Tuskens, right? We've got all these factions. They're not real big fans on bringing on a standalone. So I think that's the only reason we haven't gotten Jar Jar. So maybe on an anniversary coming up on, one of the prequel films, a year or two down the road, maybe we'll finally get Jar Jar. Next on the list is going to be Calcus. Go ahead and give the fan favorite, right? Calcus. Now, I know that CG is very hush-hush. It's like Blue Harvest out there. You can't get any information from them on Calcus other than not in our plans at this time. But you can't bring on Inquisitorius faction that was very heavily rooted in his lore of that game that he's from, the Fallen Order, and not eventually have him. You're bringing in Grand Inquisitor. I feel like we've got to have an antagonist, right? Grand Inquisitor is going to be in the game, and he's going to be this new galactic legend killer, anti-Jedi synergy. They're going to want to balance that out. CG's all about balancing their metrics, right? It's always this, and then the next meta, and the next meta, and how they can keep that revenue stream coming. They are business at the end of the day. So I feel like Calcus is going to be there, but we don't have him yet. So he's on the list because I feel like he's going to be something that's going to combat the Grand Inquisitor eventually in the game. All right, the next on my list, this is game-specific only. It's not because of the grandness of the lore. But how do we not have the Scout Trooper? Okay? We got a kit, Moff Gideon's kit. He's in there. He's actually pictured in the game, right? He's needed to complete that kit in a 5v5. How do we not have this character yet, okay? Sidebar, for those of you who haven't seen it. I did a Galactic Legend Leia speculation video. I'll put the card up here right now for you to check that out. I didn't list him there as a possible marquee character, but I could totally see if they wanted to bring him in, Scout Trooper, his whole interaction on Endor, marquee character for Galactic Legend Leia, potentially. But how do we not have him in the game? He's got to be there, right? Definitely needs to come in. That's going to lead me to the number 3 on the list. And I've said it before, said it in that same video. Saw Gerrera. Saw Gerrera was Rebels before Rebels was cool, right? I mean, this guy is the epitome of a rebel. If you don't have Saw Gerrera, one of the most iconic characters in this game, like, what are you doing, okay? This guy has been featured in the Clone Wars, the Bad Batch, Rebels, Rogue One live action, right? This guy starts so many rebel cells. He brings together so many rebels to the rebellion before Leia even thought about it, right? Saw Gerrera, definitely iconic, definitely important. Why is he not in this game, all right? So we got to fix that, CG. We got to put this guy in. Now, the next on the list, only slightly above Saul to me, got to be Hondo Onaka, right? Everyone's favorite pirate. Hondo Onaka, sidebar as well, you can bring in his ship, Atuni, as well, right? We need these ships. You could bring him in and get his ship for free, but we got a guy who is basically essential under-scheming developer of plot lines for Phoenix and the Rebel faction. How many ways does he manipulate Ezra, for crying out loud, right? How many times does he unthink some things, right? When we first see him in the Clone Wars, he actually has Dooku, Anakin, and Kenobi kidnapped and holding them for hostage for ransom. Now, it doesn't work out, but, I mean, come on. How powerful of a guy has he got to be where the first time he steps on the scene, he's got a trio of that magnitude prisoner, right? Why is Hondo not in this game? He's good enough to tell you how to get on the rides at Batuu. He ain't good enough to be in the game. Come on, CG. You got to help me out with this. I'm failing to understand, right? So, Hondo Onaka. And then that leads me to number 1. Number 1 on the list, if you haven't guessed by now, Jabba the Hut, right? How in, like, all that is holy of Star Wars do we not have Jabba the Hut by now, right? Now, me personally, I've got my feelings. You know, he had me putting carbonite, made me a wall decoration, right? But the guy needs to be in the game, okay? He needs to be in the game. He's not in the game yet. We're talking bounty hunters. We're talking scoundrels, crime syndicate, wherever you want to go, dark side. If there's a dark side to be had in this game that has nothing to do with Force or Sith or Empire that you ever want to expand on, it's got to link to Jabba the Hutt. Now, he's number 1 on the list, but I will call this out. There's no way Jabba is a marquee character. We're talking galactic legend here, okay? So when Jabba comes to the game, expected to be Galactic Legend. As always, give me a like, give me a comment down below, the kind of things you want to see on this channel. Do you agree with this list? Am I totally out there? The crazy Corellian has snapped? Is there somebody I've overlooked? You let me know in the comments below. Who do you want to see in the game and why? And as always, never tell me the odds.